Hello chocolate friends, this is my first video for opening chocolate, and I'm going to start with one of the pioneers of the bean to bar chocolate movement in the US, that is Scharffenberger. Now some people are going to be snobbish about this as being a fine chocolate right now, but they're really important to the bean to bar movement. They were one of the first people in the US to revive the micro batch, small batch, making directly from the bean in the United States. They're one of the reasons why it's so popular today. So I want to tell you, before we taste the bar, a little bit about the history of the company and the two gentlemen who started it. The company was started by two guys from San Francisco named John Scharffenberger, who was a winemaker and a sommelier, and Robert Steinberg, who was a physician. In 1989, Robert Steinberg was diagnosed with lymphoma, a type of cancer, and he was given a prognosis of 10 years. At that time, he had gone over to a friend's house for a dinner party and was perusing through a super huge cookbook, and he came across chocolate and decided this is what he wanted to do with the time that he had. And so he sold his practice, moved to France, got an internship with Bernachon, learned all he could about chocolate, and when he came back to the US, he ran into his former patient and neighbor, John Scharffenberger. He gave him a piece of chocolate. John thought it was the greatest chocolate that he had ever tasted, and that's where the collaboration started. It started in their kitchen in San Francisco. They used jerry-rigged equipment that they had made from other things like coffee grinders and hair dryers, which are more common now, but was not at all common then. They produced their first small batch bar in 1997 for sale. They were the first bar to put cacao percentages on the label so that you would know. They pioneered that. They talked about their chocolate having the soul of a fine wine. They did lots of different micro batches. One of my favorite micro bars that I've ever had, this is an old chocolate journal of mine, is a micro batch that they did. This one here, I think this was around 2008, maybe 2009. It was a spectacular bar with such unique flavors. It had a beginning, a middle, and a spicy finish that was just so unique and distinct that I have remembered it for 10 years. So they were the first ones to do this micro batch in the United States that revived the movement. In 2005, they were bought out by Hershey. Hershey no longer does the micro batch or small batch with a Scharffenberger label, but they do continue to make some of their bars. This is one of them, and they do what Hershey does very good, which is consistency. So you'll always get the same flavor every time you have this bar, which is good for introducing people to dark chocolate, dark milk chocolate, or fine chocolate in general. It's a safe place for them to start, basically. So let's get into the bar and take a look at the chocolate itself and how it tastes and see what it tastes like. Okay, so let's take a look at the bar. So you can see here that this is 41% cacao. That means that 41% of the ingredients come from the cacao tree. It's got the name chocolate maker. Chocolate maker is different from a chocolatier. A chocolatier takes some chocolate that somebody else has made and turns it into a confection. A chocolate maker is someone who makes chocolate from the beans. So this is an extra rich dark milk, basically. And let's take a look at the ingredients on the back here. So we've got chocolate. Always good to have that as a first ingredient, but that's a little vague. Sugar, milk, cocoa butter, which also counts as part of the percentage, non-fat milk, non-GMO soy lecithin, which is an emulsifier, which helps the chocolate feel smooth in your mouth, and whole vanilla beans as opposed to artificial vanilla, which you never want in a good chocolate bar. So let's open it up and see what we've got. All right. It doesn't look too bad. Doesn't have any bloom on it, sugar bloom or any other kind of bloom. Got the symbol in the middle. Let's break off a piece and have a taste. Come back at you in a minute. All right, so while I'm tasting, I'll just let you look at the chocolate. Looks nice. I don't know if you can hear the snap. Not a bad snap, but it's a milk chocolate. You're not going to get a strong snap in a milk chocolate usually anyway. This bar is gluten-free. This bar is also kosher. It's got a nice fine grain to it. When you eat it, it's very smooth. That's just milk bar and lecithin in there. And it's got a really nice chocolatey flavor. It's fudgy, it's roasty, it's caramel. You can taste the sugar, you can taste the vanilla, but it's not as overwhelming as something like in a Hershey bar. You get a little bit of caramel notes or cream toffee, maybe a little bit of malt in there as well. So that is the Scharffenberger bar. As a side note, Robert Steinberg died in 2008. He was 60 years old from the lymphoma that he was diagnosed with. But he and John Scharffenberger have left a great legacy. So it's not the most exciting bar that you'll ever taste, but you'll find that if you give this to people who are nervous about dark chocolate or have had a bad experience with dark chocolate, this is kind of like a bridge to get them back into fine chocolate and to tasting dark chocolate and to understand that it's so much better than grocery store chocolate today. As a side note, Robert Steinberg died in 2008. He was 60 years old, but they left us, Steinberg and Scharffenberger left us a great legacy of fine chocolate in the United States. So that is the bar that we talked about today. And look for the next one. Will also be one of the pioneers in the chocolate movement. See you then.